For this sample, you need 2 rectangles of fabric. For the inward curve, you will put your pieces of fabric right sides together and trim an inward curve along the edge, and then you will pin that edge together. And here we're going to sew the inside curve. Again, I'm lining up my curve on the 1.5. I'm making sure my needle is over the fabric. I'm going to start by going forward 3 or 4 stitches, backwards, and now I'm going to follow the inward curve. And again with this one, if I'm having trouble keeping my fabric going along that curve, you can lower your foot, or lower your needle, sorry, and raise your presser foot and pivot so that you can always keep the edge of the fabric lined up with that 1.5. And again, turn the balance wheel towards you, lower the needle, raise the presser foot, and you can turn your fabric as much as you need to keep lined up. And again with this, it's a fairly gentle curve. I'm able to simply manipulate the fabric and make it go the way I want it. And then as I get to the end, I'm going to reverse and go forward to lock my stitching. Pull it out, snip your threads, same on the opposite side, and there is your inward curve. So this would be a curve that you might see on a scooped neckline, for example. But also sometimes on, if you're doing craft projects on stuffed animals, there will be a whole variety of lines and curves to sew. On the inward curve, when you're finished sewing, again, you're going to do some trimming. So we are going to start by trimming. So we are going to cut off approximately half of the seam between the seam and the edge of the fabric. And this is called the seam allowance that we are cutting. And then I'm going to grade the seam. So when I grade it, I'm going to cut one layer shorter than the other. And I'm just going to pick this up. I find it a little easier to do if I'm holding it. It's a little tricky getting your shears in there, but you take your time. If you're hurrying, sometimes you end up making mistakes. So now again, we have one seam shorter than the other, and then we are going to clip this seam. Now the word clip is used quite often in sewing. If you clip a corner, you cut off a diagonal piece of fabric. In this one, when we clip, we are doing straight cuts. It's similar to doing an inside corner. And I'm cutting close to my stitching, but again, you do not want to cut your stitching. And this is a pretty gentle curve. I'm probably doing more clips than I need to along here, but I'm doing them approximately every 1.5 centimeters is what they look like. I probably could have done them every 2 centimeters. But again with this, when we turn it, it needs to stretch a bit in order to lie smoothly. And so by doing that clipping, it's going to allow it to stretch, and the trimming and the grading is going to reduce the bulk and give a nicer look to the edge on the garment. So that is the inward curve. To complete the inward curve, press it on the one side, turn it over, press the other side, and that is your completed inward curve.